10 days ago, Michelle and I signed the papers on something we've dreamed about for years. We bought our first RV park. I'm recording this episode actually sitting in my motorhome right now because we moved into the park. Not because it's glamorous, but because that's what this season requires. You know what's funny? Everybody congratulates you when you buy the business. Nobody congratulates you 3 days later when you're mowing grass in 100-degree heat, fixing things that break, trying to figure out why occupancy isn't where you projected, changing the name, rebuilding the brand, answering phone calls, running 4 other businesses, helping your daughter launch her business, supporting your wife through health challenges, while wondering if you're slightly crazy for taking all this on. Everybody wants the dream until they meet the process. And today, I want to talk about that process. Welcome back to the eForge podcast, where overwhelmed operators become empowered leaders, where we forge businesses, influence, and legacies that last. I'm your host, Cory Long. This episode is probably the most personal one I've recorded in a long time because I'm not teaching AI today. I'm not talking about SEO. I'm not talking about sales. I'm talking about what happens after you say yes to a dream. So let's dive in. Look, I've had people ask, Cory, why an RV park? Truthfully, this wasn't random. Many of you may not know, but we lived and traveled in an RV for 4.5 years. About 6-7 years ago, we had decided that it was too hot in West Texas. So we thought, hey, let's buy an RV. Michelle came in one day and literally said, hey, what do you think about us buying an RV and maybe traveling a little bit? And I took that a hook, line, and sinker, and literally we sold the house within 45 days. We packed up in an RV and we traveled for 4.5 years. We went to camps and we went to churches and children's homes and recovery centers and other places, and we just served. We would literally pull up in our RV, park either at a park somewhere locally or at the camp or whatever it was, and we would just be there to serve. We mowed grass and we cleaned stuff, and I preached and taught in Bible studies and led worship, and there were places that we went where I did marketing and just helped with business principles and things that were happening for events and things that were going on. Even at Camp Glorieta, I was able to actually spend some time driving a Humvee for the mountain scooters and driving people around in the big 6-wheel truck and just having fun, doing stuff. At that point, though, we were just traveling to travel in an RV, and we kept thinking, man, this RV lifestyle, we like this. We like the people we meet. There's like this whole community of people that's in the RV world that you just don't really come into contact with anywhere else. And a lot of them are amazing veterans and Christians, and a lot of them are just people kind of like us that were looking for ways to serve and do things with the time that they had and the resources that they had. And so we would go from park to park, place to place. And I kept thinking, man, there's got to be some parks out there. Maybe there's something that we could buy eventually. We had looked at parks. We had thought about it for a while, and nothing really made sense at that point. We weren't really chasing ownership. We'd looked at a lot of deals. We were waiting for stewardship. We were waiting for that opportunity for us to really, truly get our hands on something that made sense to us. And then the opportunity showed up. It showed up not too long ago. Earlier this year, I literally said in one of my eForge trainings with our mastermind group, and I told them, I said, this year I'm going to buy an RV park. And one of the people in the group, Cory, actually said, he said, I just am like taken aback by the fact that you are so just matter of fact about this. I'm going to buy an RV park this year, because I don't know about you guys, but I believe that when we believe it, speak it, take action on it, that we can make anything happen. And we did. We're 6 months into the year and going into July right now, and we bought our first RV park, and I would like to buy another one before the end of the year. Some people probably thought it was a bold move. Some people probably thought it was crazy. I think my family kind of thought it was crazy this last week with us trying to get everything done. But I've learned something. Sometimes you have to declare where you're going before you figured out exactly how you're going to get there. And even after you get there, you've got to figure this thing out. Look, I think social media has lied to entrepreneurs. It shows us the closing day, and it shows all these other great, things that accolades that happen, but it doesn't show day 10. It doesn't show day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't show any of those. Day 10 looks like this: a few renters instead of a half full park that we've expected when we got here, equipment breaking, heat, humidity, weeds, mowing, cleaning, marketing, rebranding, Google business profile updates, website updates, Facebook posts, signs, invoices, phone calls, new software that we're setting up. But the dream didn't disappear. It just got dirty, right? Because we're in the middle of the mess. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. People tell me all the time, I bet on myself, but then the first obstacle comes and they quit. Look, that's not betting on yourself. That's betting on comfort. People think, well, if I just buy this training program, or maybe they want to buy a business and they buy an actual physical business that's running right now, and they think they're going to walk in the door and it's going to be easy and they're just going to go set up at the market, or they're going to go do this, brick and mortar, whatever it is. And it doesn't really matter, the business, guys. The widget does not matter. Business is hard, but I choose that hard because I've ruined myself for working for anybody else. So real entrepreneurship, like real talk, is betting that the person you're becoming is capable of solving problems, things that you maybe have never faced before, that you've never done before. And that's what I'm betting on, not the RV park. I'm betting on me. The RV park's just an asset. It's just a piece of property that we've bought that creates the opportunity, right? But I'm the one that's got to go mow and weed eat and get people in place and get the software and do the marketing and do the rebranding and make sure that we're setting this thing up for success and set up security and do all the things. Now, this is where the story changes, because this really isn't about an RV park, is it? I'm building an inside AI authority engine. I'm building something that's unique. Because look, I believe AI is the biggest opportunity probably that I've seen in my lifetime. But I also believe AI is going to radically change how people earn income. Some businesses will thrive, others will disappear. I think the online world is going to get very interesting as we go along. There's going to be, and I've said this many, many times. I said this on the podcast. I've said this in my trainings. I think there's going to be a whole lot of businesses that go out of business this year, thinking that it's the economy, or they're going to blame the government, or they're going to blame whatever. Pick your blame. You can blame whatever you want. But I'm going to tell you right now on this podcast, like we've seen this live, I've seen businesses lose up to 75% of their lead flow, of their calls, of their forms being filled out, of people walking through the door, because they're not showing an AI right now. They're not showing an AI right now. So if they're not showing an AI and they're not showing up anywhere, then they're not getting the business that they should be getting. And that's exactly why I'm buying assets on top of the businesses that I have. Many of you know that I own multiple streams of income. We have multiple businesses, have multiple training companies or training programs. We have our marketing agency that we've had for 12 plus years. We have multiple other businesses that support those businesses. I work as a fractional CMO for a few companies. I do some consulting and coaching. Right now we have an RV park. I've built and sold an epoxy business over the last few years. Like, we've done all kinds of things through the years, but I want physical assets that are going to create something down the road in the future, something that doesn't rely on Cory, right? Something that doesn't depend on one business model, something that everyone has to have. There's not a choice. You got to have a place to live, right? And we know that housing is getting more expensive. We know all that stuff. And I actually invested in some RV park training last year, went to Arizona and spent some time out there working with people. And I learned a lot about RV parks. I learned, even though I had been in and out of RV parks a ton because we had traveled so much in our RV, we had first started in a fifth wheel and eventually in the motorhome that I'm sitting in right now. Even with all of that, when I went out there, I learned that there's only about 15 to 17,000 RV parks, depending on what size you really count, in the whole United States right now. They're estimating that by 2030, which right now we're coming on the end of 2026, right? So we've got about 6 months left. By 2030, they're expecting that there's going to be a need for 30,000 RV parks. That means it's going to need to almost double in the next 3 years just to be able to take care of the people that are either going into RVing, already full-time RVing, or people that will need to go and live in an RV because of housing costs, or maybe they've gone remote and they don't have to be in one place. There's a lot of families that RV now, and they travel all over, and they literally raise their kids on the road. It's amazing. It's amazing, right? I don't want to depend on one income, and I sure don't want to depend on something that AI could wipe out. AI can't wipe the RV park out. AI can't wipe the housing out, right? It's just not possible, right? I don't want to depend on just one business model. I want multiple businesses. I want multiple assets. So this park isn't the finish line. Like this is what's crazy. It doesn't feel like it right now, but this RV park's not the finish line. It's literally the starting line. It's just the first park out of what I would consider to be many. We would really like to buy another one before the end of the year, if possible. I don't know, based on where we're at right now, if we're going to be up for that. We'll see. But this is something I've learned over the years. Great leaders don't manage problems from a distance. They move towards them. That's why we're living here, because we wanted to come and learn the business. I wanted to learn how it works. I wanted to learn how this specific park works. I wanted to learn this area. We weren't super familiar with this area. We're about 35 minutes outside of DFW. We're right next to a lake. We're right next to Canton. First Monday trade days, which is massive. Thing is huge, right? But I wanted to come here and I wanted to live the experience. I don't, maybe you're like this. And if you are, drop a comment, man. Like, I'm the kind of person that I need to go experience something. I need to get into the dirt of it all, the mess of it all, the weeds of it all. I need to see it and experience it so that I know it, because the next one, then I have the experience to be able to walk in and go, okay, here's what I need to do. I wasn't sure on this one. So we came here to live here for a while until we have the park where we want to be. I've already identified somebody that could be a work camper for us. We've already identified some of the needs of the park. We're about to add Starlink Wi-Fi, and we're about to add a dog run, and we're about to add or finish a bathhouse that's here. We've even talked about adding some animals out here to add some additional, like I'd say amenities, but just to give it a different culture, a different feel, just a different place to come to, because it's very country, and I want it to be country. And could I have hired everything out when we got here? Sure. But I wanted to understand the business. I wanted to understand the process, the guest experience. I'm living in the park, so I get to see, does the electric and the plumbing, and does everything work the way it's supposed to? Are the pads set up correctly? I want to know how it works so that I can see, is it something that we can scale the way it is? Because we started with 28 spots. We want to grow that to at least 50 or more. And then from that point, we'll decide, do we keep the park? Do we sell them, flip it into something bigger? What do we do? I don't know. But this entire experience is reminding me something. Look, everybody loves vision. They love to be able to talk about the dreams that they have and the things that they want to do and the vacations they want to take and the travel that they want to do and the house or the car or the boat or the whatever that they want to own. And they want to talk about what they want to be able to do for their family, and they want to do all that stuff. But very few people love the process. Everybody celebrates the closing, right? They celebrate us going, and I've had all these people say, congratulations on buying the RV park, but nobody understands what it's like to be out there on that mower running the weed eater in 100-degree heat with 60% humidity. Everybody wants the passive income, and they want to be able to see money come into their bank account or into their, right into their mailbox money. Everybody wants that, but that takes active sacrifice. Here's the truth. The process is what prepares you for the promise. If you skip the process, you usually lose the promise. I think that's the thing that fascinates me. I've spent years training thousands of marketing students, and it never fails that these marketing students come in and they'll blame everything. They'll blame everything. Like, I've had people come flat out lie to me about things that are happening in their family so that they could try to get a refund. I've had all kinds of craziness through the years. I've got people that'll write me and go, well, I tried it for a little bit and it just wasn't for me. Can I get my money back? And I'm like, that's not how this works, man. You didn't go to college and pay for a, $150,000 degree and just go, well, I tried it for a few years. Can y'all give me my money? That's just not how it works. Like, if you're going to bet on yourself, you need to go all in. You need to do the thing. You need to go through the process. You need to go get in the middle of the weeds. You need to run the weed eater for a little bit. You need to spray some weeds. You need to pull some weeds. mow the grass, right? You need to do the hard work. So if you're listening today and you're in the messy middle, don't confuse difficulty with the wrong direction. Sometimes the hardest season is actually confirmation that you're building something that's actually worthwhile. The dream isn't supposed to stay a dream, right? Eventually it becomes work. And then if you're faithful, it becomes a legacy. What do they talk about Elon Musk sleeping at his office so many times? He lives in I've seen it over and over again. I don't know if it's true, but they talk about how he lives in just a little small home. He just keeps things very, very, very simple so that he can spend all of his time doing what he feels like he needs to focus on his business. The guy must be doing something right. He's the first guy to be worth trillion, right? I think so many people that I've watched through the years, that I've trained, that I've helped and coached, I think so many of them think, well, I'm going to buy this program, and they get sold on the idea that entrepreneurship is easy, and if you build it, they will come, and that kind of thing. And it's just not true. I don't care if you buy a franchise or it's just not true. It's going to take work. It's going to take long hours. It's going to take sacrificing some time with your family and the hobbies that you have and the things that you want to do and all of that. And you got to be willing to do that. If you're not willing to do that, don't get into entrepreneurship. Just keep a job. Because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be willing to do those things. And there's going to be stress that's going to happen with payroll and paying your bills and all that stuff. It's a part of the journey. And as I've learned through the years, I've gotten better and better and better at handling it, but it's still stressful. Still stresses me out. Right now, it's crazy because normally I would sleep 8 or 9 hours a night. Right now, I wake up at 5 o'clock almost every single morning. I don't know what happened. When we got here, my whole body shifted gears and it's like, okay, it's time to go to work. And I'm up working and doing things and working till dark at night, trying to get stuff done out at the park, and then working on my marketing company and working on the challenge coming up and working on the other CMO stuff and responsibilities and the coaching clients that I have, and working on some consulting stuff and working on the selling for our marketing agency and doing all that kind of stuff. Because this isn't where the journey ends. It's not just one RV park for us. I've thought about, maybe we own 5, maybe we own 10, maybe we own 15. I don't know. Maybe we just own one huge one. I heard the other day, somebody was talking about a park that had 400 spaces in it and it's almost full. And I was thinking 400 spaces at even if we go conservative at $500 a month, 400 spaces, if you think about the amount of revenue that's coming into that park, it's just ridiculous. So I honestly don't know. But here's what I do know. 10 years from now, I don't want to look back wishing that I had the courage to start, and not only just wishing that I had the courage to start, but actually follow through. It's the follow through that's going to either make or break your business. It's the follow through, the late nights, the early mornings, the pain, the frustration, the times when you just want to give up and quit and throw it all and just go, right? If you're listening to this today, maybe this isn't about buying an RV park. Maybe it's about finally making that phone call, launching the business, writing the book, hiring an employee, starting the ministry, learning AI, buying the first asset. Maybe it's about taking the first step that you've been putting off because you've been waiting to feel ready. Look, here's what I've learned. You're almost never ready. You're not gonna be ready. I wasn't ready. We literally showed up here on a Thursday night. We drove what should have been a 6.5-hour drive. Took me 9 hours in the motorhome, took my family because of the new grandbaby, took my family of 3 cars in a caravan, 10 plus hours to get here. 10 plus hours to get here. And then we get here and the park's overgrown. I expected the park to be half full and there was only literally one trailer left, one renter left by the weekend. So my revenue went from $4 or $5 grand a month to less than $1,000 a month in literally the time that I had signed the contract and put the contract on the property to the time that I went to the title company and actually wrote the check and and did the thing. Then we get out here and some things aren't working, and then we got to figure out why people are leaving, and then we're having to mow and weed eat, and we're like, it's just hard. But that's the hard that I choose, right? I would rather choose that hard than going and working for somebody and not building something that's going to be for my family down the road. I'd rather choose that hard and leave a legacy for that grandbaby that took an extra few hours to get here because he needed to eat and he wasn't happy in the car seat and all the other goodness that happened out of that. I would rather choose that hard. I would rather choose the heart of learning and growing and becoming a better man, a better dad, a better husband, right? A better Christian, a better person in the community. Look, you're almost never ready. You grow into the next season. You don't wait for it. Look, if this has resonated with you today, man, I just leave a comment, drop something, and wherever you're listening to, if this has resonated with you, tell me a little bit about your story. Where do you want to be? Maybe you started a business. Maybe you gave up. I'll get even a little more personal. When we started the agency that we own now, Rock Consulting, when we started that 12 years ago, and I bought the very first program, we couldn't afford that program. We put it on a credit card. We paid it out in payments. I had no idea how we were going to pay it because we didn't have the money at the time. We were starting a safety supply company. We'd been in ministry 17 years before that. So we were broke, like broke, like can't order guacamole at the Mexican food restaurant, broke. And so we basically went from broke to being more broke, starting a business, borrowing money and living on borrowed time to using credit to buy the training to learn how to do the marketing. And in the first week, I landed my first client. And then we landed another and another. And within 7 months, we were at 10K, 8 months at 15, 9 months at 20. We just kind of kept growing, 25, 30, 35. Within a year, we were doing 35, 45 consistently a month. And it was just me and my wife, one full-time employee and a part-time employee. That was it. It didn't take much back then to run what we were doing. But I had to bet on myself, and then I had to keep going when it got really hard. When we'd lose clients, when things wouldn't work. All of a sudden, about a year and a half in, we landed a $45,000 a month client, and things grew really fast. It was great. We added 18 employees at that point. We were cruising along. We had offices in multiple places. We had staff all over the place. And then one day we woke up and we said, this is not what we set out to do. We set out to do ministry without taking a paycheck. We didn't set out to go to a business every day and work, right? And so that's what we kind of started doing the RVing for. We were like, let's go do ministry. And then over the last few years, we've done that. We've done the ministry. We started an epoxy company and sold it. We started a couple of other businesses and either sold them or shut them down because they just weren't the direction that we wanted to go. And now all of a sudden we're sitting here with a new RV park, right? We're sitting here with a new RV park, new challenge, new thing to learn, new thing to grow into. And we want multiple of these. We want multiple places that we can have assets that are spinning off monthly cash flow to be able to support our family for generations, hopefully. So I don't know where your dream's at. I don't know where you're heading. Maybe you're at that point where I was 12 years ago and you're broke and you're trying to figure out, how do I take that next step? Maybe it's getting into a community like ours with eForge. Maybe it's getting into AI Authority Engine and learning a new skill set so that you can actually charge thousands of dollars a month to do the services, right? Maybe it's going and starting a little side hustle, like the college student, Tim, that I had in Lubbock that started a crepe business, and he's done anywhere from 6 to 10K a month or more and just sets up at markets and does catering. Like maybe that's where you're headed. Or maybe it's the jewelry business like my daughter. She went and she and I learned how to make jewelry in Hawaii. We came back. She spent months trying to learn, how do I do this? How do I make jewelry in a way that I can do it consistently and teach others how to do it? And before long, she's making wedding rings for some of the college students at the church that we were at. And before long, she's selling at the markets and doing extremely well. And she builds her brand and she starts doing that. And now she's looking at taking that and going hardcore and doing a brick and mortar and an experience where people come and they learn how to create jewelry for themselves or a loved one or somebody they want to give it to. She's going to have to bet on herself. And guess what? It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. There's going to be days when she's going to be like, this is craziness. Why did I do this? And then there's going to be days when she's going to be like, that was unreal. I just did 4 or 5 grand a day in one day, because she can. And the business she's in, she could totally do that. So drop your dream. Let us know. Let me know how I can support you, help you, encourage you. I would love to do that. Leave that comment. I would love to do that. And if you know somebody that they would resonate with this, or they need to hear this, share this episode. That would help me tremendously to get the word out. Share this episode with them, whether you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube or wherever you listen to this at. Guys, until next Thursday, keep forging forward, stay aligned with your calling, build with clarity, confidence, and conviction, because this is The Forge, where leaders are made and legacies are built.